19th century America, a disease-ridden landscape where many ailments found no trouble growing and spreading throughout society. Cholera, smallpox, typhus, all names that carried a horrible note for those unfortunate enough to become affected at the time. It wasn't until the late 1800s when people were introduced to the idea of vaccinating and preventing disease before it ever starts. Riding this new wave of enthusiasm were plenty of individuals coming to try their luck at creating medicines. Unfortunately for the people of the time, knowledge of these medicines was very limited and not as readily available. Also, the doctors weren't exactly up to par with the men and women we allow into the medical field today. Not to mention that many creators of these drugs were just businessmen with no medical licenses or experience whatsoever. The unlikely mix of greed and ignorance produced a variety of very interesting and dangerous drugs that people were subjected to because nobody knew any better. Here we count down 5 of the worst medicinal drugs ever to be sold to the public. Number 5. Hadacol. This wonder drug was marketed as a vitamin supplement for all-around health and wellness. The ingredients? Various multivitamins combined with 12% alcohol by volume, basically making it Gatorade with the alcoholic strength of a bottle of wine. The concoction was created by Louisiana State Senator Dudley J. LeBlanc. No medical or pharmaceutical experience whatsoever, Dudley was just one heck of a salesman. At the time, many states were completely dry counties, meaning that the sale of alcohol was banned. But Hadacol was sold as a vitamin supplement from pharmacies, and although it boasted a hefty alcohol content, was unaffected by the ban, which people easily took advantage of. It was reported that many pharmacies, especially in the South, would sell Hadacol over the counter by the shot. Dudley began to tour the country with his Hadacol caravan to sell his product, and he had recruited a cast of Hollywood actors and musicians to perform shows as a means of promotion. The caravan would host massive parties in every county it visited. The cost of admission, 2 Hadacol box tops for adults and 1 for children. The events were a huge success, and Dudley had lined his pockets with over $4 million in sales from his Hadacol crusade. Although it was made abundantly clear that Hadacol was actually a modern-day lean and not the family-friendly vitamin promoted, this was not the reason for its downfall. It was actually revealed that Dudley had accumulated a massive amount of debt along the way, and his success was brought to a grinding halt. Number 4. Habitina. Habitina was developed by Dr. Robert Pruitt to help those addicted to narcotics. It could not be explicitly marketed as a cure because of its ingredients, which consisted almost entirely of morphine and heroin. It was instead sold as a way to discontinue the use of narcotics, and if it was used correctly, it might have actually worked. The problem with Habitina did not lie in the product itself, but more the delivery of the product. The instructions were to take sufficient amounts to ease craving and continue to take smaller and smaller doses over time. However, heroin addicts with no supervision were not the best suited for weaning themselves off the drug, and in most cases developed an addiction to the medicine itself, handing in one horrible addiction for an equally horrible, although legal and more expensive counterpart. It was sold privately by the doctor, who claimed that only people who qualified after testing would be allowed to purchase, when in reality the tests were a sham and he was mailing out free samples to anyone who requested them. Because what better way to make sure people keep buying your product than to get them addicted? Pruitt was later convicted on charges of defrauding and sending poison through the mail. Number 3. Cigar de Joy. These cigars were sold as a cure for asthma. During the time, the cause for asthma was still being debated, and many of the treatments included combustible powder that were to be inhaled. This was just one brand of the cigars that were on the market, the difference being Cigar de Joy were created using stramonium as the main ingredient. Stramonium, when burnt and inhaled, may have actually provided sufficient relief due to its anti-inflammatory properties. However, stramonium itself is a powerful hallucinogen. These medicated cigarettes were on the market for quite some time until it was discovered that inhaling smoke was worse for asthma than the medication was helpful. Even then, though, they remained on the market. The cigars were safe enough. Even with the powerful hallucinogen, smoking excess amounts would only create some funny side effects without causing an overdose. Although counterproductive, It wasn't until the 30s when it was discovered that people were smashing up the cigars and mixing the contents with water that they were pulled for health reasons. The homemade concoction was powerful enough to create vivid hallucinations and very easy to overdose on. Number 2. Laudanum. Laudanum was the go-to medicine for the doctors of the late 19th century. It's created by combining alcohol extract with powdered opium. Its effects similar to but more unpredictable than morphine. Laudanum was a staple for many of the wonder drugs that began popping up during the time period and was given to everyone from whiny infants to people with headaches and women with womanly issues. The easy accessibility to the drug is what the most dangerous thing about it was. When not under supervision of a doctor, the drug was very often misused, and the freedom for companies to exploit the drug in their own products led to dependencies even when people didn't know the full severity of what they were taking. Number 1. Miss Winslow's Soothing Syrup. Probably the most infamous wonder drug of the times, this syrup was sold as a cure-all to soothe any child or animal. The syrup was said to be developed by Miss Charlotte Winslow while caring for babies, and was reportedly very effective at quieting fussy children. This was thanks to its composition, which was almost entirely morphine-based. The recommended dosage on the bottle was equivalent to 20 drops of the previously discussed laudanum, and the instructions were to deliver dosage every 2 hours until you noticed a visual improvement. Considering a teaspoon of the stuff was enough to kill an average-sized child, this was by far the most dangerous drug discussed, especially with children as the target recipient. Eventually, people caught on to the fact that babies and high doses of morphine do not mix well, and Miss Winslow's wonder drug earned its nickname, the Baby Killer, after too many crying babies were put to sleep for good. Shocking, this thing stayed on the shelves until 1930, with only minor changes in composition and labeling to reveal its true contents.